From Unity of Houston, Texas, this is The Awakened Life with Reverend Howard Caesar. Unity is a non-denominational spiritual community providing a positive, practical, and progressive approach to Christianity. Let's join the service in progress now with Reverend Howard Caesar.
I wanted to share with you to begin with, there was back in 2002, some SAT tests that students take to get into college and all that. This was a test that was given to some Oklahoma students, 16-year-olds, an SAT test in the year 2002. Here's their questions and answers. Just give you a few of them. Name the 4 seasons: salt, pepper, mustard, and vinegar. Now, this was not everyone. This was one of their answers, one of the people. What happens to a boy when he reaches puberty? Answer: he says goodbye to his boyhood and looks forward to adultery. Name a major disease associated with cigarettes. Premature death. That's not nice. How can you delay milk turning sour? Leave it in the cow. Such practical answers. Give me the meaning of the term Caesarean section. Well, the Caesarean section is a district in Rome. Caesarean, Caesar's. Okay, and this is the last one. What does the word benign mean? Benign is what you will be after you be 8. So some of those students need some help there. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about understanding actually today. And, what do you yourself want most? Do you want most to understand, or do you want most to have understanding? They're not the same. There was a time, a couple of months ago, I did a Facebook post in which I made the distinction between the two in a brief kind of fashion. And then, a month later, I had a person I was meeting with, and they were going through a situation, and it seemed appropriate to share the distinction between to try and understand, figure out, comprehend in our mind versus having understanding. It was very helpful to the person. Later, they said, I should really do a lesson on that. So I've kind of tucked that away, and today I'm guided to do so. My intention is today to offer up that there are basically 3 types of understanding, or actually, from the spiritual perspective, there are 3 levels of understanding as we grow and progress. And essentially what we are is we're evolving, hopefully, from one to the next in deeper fashion. So the 3 levels of understanding are these. One is, as I said, to understand. The next is to have understanding. And the third is spiritual understanding or wisdom, which is the next level of depth. So first we want to look at what it means to understand. To understand obviously has to do with the mind. It has to do with the intellect. I'm trying to understand and comprehend. I'm wanting to know, understand this, understand that, understand you, that, things in life, people, whatever. And it's the most familiar way that we have of trying to understand reality. And when we want to understand, we're in our heads, we're looking for a body of knowledge, maybe information, facts, data, so forth, and it's something that someone could teach you from the external in. And it could be things, mechanical or scientific or mathematics, or it can be a language, it can be how to drive, it can be how to operate a computer, and you can go on this, but it's the mind asking the question mostly, how? And mostly when we are in our head and when we're in our mind wanting to understand, we tend to be outer directed. We're not looking within ourselves for answers and a level of understanding. We're looking to books, we're looking to teachers, we're looking to authorities, we're looking to studies, we're looking to data, we're looking for information, things like that. But the scripture says, judge not by appearances, so don't be looking outside yourself at all times, in all ways. Yes, there's some benefit there, but there's another level. As you unfold, you have to begin to look beyond appearances, to really be guided, to really understand who you are and your relationship and your purpose with life. And so the mind wants to know. The mind is really, craving knowledge and understanding everything. And it's not bad, to go to school to gain knowledge. We're not saying that. We're just saying that there's another level beyond that. There are things that we obviously cannot understand. I hope you get that. There are things that you're not going to understand. We cannot understand God fully. There are the unknowable aspects of God. And where did God come from? Who created God? How is this universe really continuing to expand on out? Continuing to grow, create. What about miracles? How do miracles happen? What about dreams? I don't understand my dreams. Once in a while, I get a little something out of them. What about death? What about the process of dying itself? Illnesses, bad things that happen to good people. Life beyond the veil. A lot of things we don't understand. Why are there mosquitoes? You can have other profound questions. But take people. You can't really understand most people. You may think you can. Now, you can understand to a degree. You can understand a person, but you really can't understand people. And basically they're all different. We're all different. And we're always changing. And there are so many factors that go into the makeup of every individual and what makes you tick, what makes you who you are. You've said in your mind, I can't understand why you act the way you act. I can't understand why you say what you're saying. I can't understand why you think the way you think. Now I can try. Our mind does try. It gets into analysis paralysis. It tries to dissect a person's brain, and you can't figure things out for every person that you meet, even people that you've been close to. You can experience and understand elements of that person, but fully, I'm sorry. And so basically, I don't have to necessarily agree with the various beliefs and opinions that another may have. I may even be turned off by them. Those are the kinds of things we're in our head when we're trying to understand. And masters and mystics will tell you, you have to get beyond trying to understand. You'll go crazy just trying to understand. You'll be locked into your head just trying to understand and never get to your heart. So the next level is to have understanding. It's different, Where the mind says, I just can't understand you, it is the heart that says, I have, however, understanding for you. I have an understanding for you. Even though I can't comprehend all that's going on and what it's all about, I have understanding for you. And it's that which takes us into love, a sense of acceptance, non-judgment, non-condemnation, forgiveness, compassion. I can realize that I don't know all that has gone on for you. I don't know all that has gone into making you the way you are. I don't know your past. I don't know your childhood. I don't know what situations and happenings and circumstances have shaped you to this point in time, have shaped your attitudes and your perceptions about life, or your opinions and your beliefs and even your behaviors. I don't know what's bothering you, if something is. I don't know what is the cause of your upset. I may, on occasion, like I say, but I don't know what makes a person anxious. I can't always know. I don't know, sometimes they don't know what's making them afraid or what their insecurities are. They haven't even pinpointed with me yet. I don't know what all of another person's charges are that are lying beneath the surface in the unconscious that can be triggered by things suddenly that seem so minor. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you're facing right now, what's going on in your mind. But I don't have to throw you away. I don't have to label you. I don't have to condemn you. I don't have to judge you. I don't necessarily have to agree on anything, but I can have understanding, which says, we're all different. We all have our gifts. We all have our flaws. We all have the things that we're working on. We all have many personalities that are intertwined and can show up in different ways, different settings. I may not agree, but I won't condemn. I may not be able to understand, but I'll have understanding that for now, there must be a reason. You're saying what you're saying, thinking what you're thinking, doing what you're doing, whatever. Even though I can't understand, I'm not going to hang out in my head and try and figure it out and be separate from my heart. I'm not going to get locked in there. Look at relationships, So there are some things that we have to let go of trying to understand within our relationships, trying to figure out, trying to analyze, that keeps us stuck in our head. So women, give up trying to understand men. You're not a man. And men, give up trying to understand women. You're not a woman. Now, there are things that we can understand. I'm not saying stop trying to be an understanding person. We're saying, no, be an understanding person. Understand what you can, but basically the things that you're going to really understand anyway are going to come from your heart. It's not going to come from your head. And that's the difference what we're talking about, and that's what masters and mystics speak to. So you have to get, if you're going to understand anyone to any degree, you're going to have to get out of your head, which tends to always judge. We only judge in our head. And our head is what separates us on out. And it's our head that labels and sets conditions on whether we're going to love or not. The heart says, I'm going to have understanding, because that's at my core level who I am and my nature as a child of God. And so I have come to realize that, there are things I don't understand and I can't understand about my dear wife, not in a bad way. I'm not saying that. I try as anyone too, and working on having understanding and noticing as much as I can when the ego of mind wants to keep me in the mind, and the part of me of the spirit is wanting to pull me back into my heart. And so that's a dynamic that we all can go through. And so I know that there are things about me that are a mystery to my wife. And she's trying to figure out or understand and have understanding too. So I'm just saying it goes on in every relationship. It just is part of a relationship, and it's part of that path. And by having understanding, rather than the ego's need to understand, there is an opening created, where there's an energy shift where a person then, by having understanding, is able to be of help to another or of help to a situation. Really, we can't ask another to understand even ourselves when we don't understand ourselves. You understand? Do you, yes, you do, don't you? It says above the temple, know thyself. So we're all in the process of knowing thyself. We don't fully know thyself. How can we expect others to understand ourselves in the head? So we have to come from the heart that has an understanding that, hey, we're all on a path. We have gifts and we have flaws, and it's okay. And so this idea, we're not talking about just as spouses. We're talking about, significant others, our children, grandchildren, siblings, parents, relatives, co-workers, whoever we're into a relationship, this can come up, and we are having to be aware of not hanging out in trying to understand, but remembering to go into having understanding. I've worked alongside, and before I got into ministry, I was out in the workforce for 6 years and worked some in my father's business, and I worked with a guy that was just almost impossible. Nobody wanted to work with him. And I can remember just, using some of the principles. I was new to unity, and he had this double take internally about how I was accepting him no matter what, and he shifted. I still remember that person and the difference that he made, and then the comments he made of just being grateful for, like, no one ever really, talking to him that way or accepting him that way. He made that shift, and we can be of help to another. So to have understanding is a dynamic of the heart. And Solomon, of course, in the Old Testament, when he was about to begin his reign in the Old Testament as king, he had the dream, and the dream was where God came to him, and God said, whatever you ask, one thing, and Solomon asked for, what? An understanding heart. And so that's the next level, really, is spiritual understanding. It is the wisdom. It's another level. And spiritual understanding and wisdom is also of the heart, and it was, that which he used throughout his life and all the decisions that came before him, even the baby that the two mothers were arguing over, and he said, cut it in half, knowing, at a deep level, knowing that the true mother would not allow that. That comes from within somehow, that knowledge, that idea. There's a depth to that kind of wisdom. It comes from a deeper place that also includes the heart. There's in the book of Proverbs, it talks about this how special and important this wisdom is, this kind of understanding, this spiritual understanding. And just share a little bit of Proverbs chapter 3, where it says, happy is the man who findeth wisdom, this spiritual understanding, and the man that getteth this understanding, this depth of the heart. For the gaining of it is better than the gaining of silver, and the profit thereof than fine gold. She is more precious than rubies, and none of the things you can desire are to be compared unto her. Length of days in her right hand, in her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are the ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to them that lay hold upon her, and happy is everyone that retains her. Now just think about that, It's talking about spiritual understanding, and it comes almost as if it's a revelation from God into the heart of man. And notice that in reading this passage, all the references are to feminine. She is more precious. Her right hand, her left hand, her ways are the ways of pleasantness, her paths. She is the tree of life. It's the feminine. The feminine is what? Of the heart. We all have the masculine and the feminine, you see. And we have to incorporate that feminine, that dimension of the heart. And that doesn't mean that if you're a man, it's more difficult than it is for a woman. Understand that it's just as important for a woman, and it's not automatic that they're in their heart because they're a woman versus a man. Understand that, okay? They don't have an advantage because the feminine is referred to the heart. We all have that, whether we're male or female, to have the balance of the intellect and the heart. And so ask yourself, when, also in relation to this passage, when did knowledge and things of the intellect or the mind ever ensure life, health, peace, ways of pleasantness, riches and honor? It can't. It can't. And that's what that passage is saying. Knowledge seeks facts, data, judges externally, mostly asks how. How? Wisdom is more concerned with meaning, the meaning of things in life, the meaning, the value of life. It asks why, not necessarily how. It's said a person who knows how will always have a job. A person who knows why will always be his boss. So again, let me say, knowledge is not a bad thing. We're just saying that it's not wisdom, and that we have to have the intellect working, but we also have to have the heart working, and we also have to have, at the third level, a connection consciously to the divine to connect us to a depth of spiritual understanding that is almost revelatory, moment to moment, that is given to us. Because basically, knowledge aims at exactness. Data, information, what am I doing? Let me look in the book. That type of modality. There's a story about a lawyer who was questioning a farmer about an accident he had on the road, and they're in court, and it's apparently an insurance issue probably, and the lawyer said to the farmer, okay, tell me exactly what happened right after the accident when you reportedly said, I feel fine. And the farmer began to speak and said, well, me and my cow, Bessie, were driving down the road. And this lawyer interrupted and said, please answer my question. Didn't you say you felt fine immediately following that accident? Turning to the judge, the lawyer says, ask the witness to be instructed to answer my question. The judge looked at the farmer and said, please answer the question. So the farmer again began, me and my cow, Bessie, were driving down the road. Again, the lawyer interrupted and says, Your Honor, please instruct the witness to answer my question. So the judge looked at the lawyer, looked back at the witness, farmer, and back at the lawyer, and said, let's just let him tell his story. So the farmer began a third time. He said, me and my cow, Bessie, were driving down the road. And when we crossed the intersection, this big truck hits us broadside. I flew out of the truck in one direction. Bessie flew out in the other. I regained consciousness just as the highway patrol officer arrived. He went over and looked at poor Bessie lying there in the road. Then he came over to me and told me she was injured. It was really in pretty bad shape. So then he went back to Bessie, pulled out his gun and shot her dead. Then he came back to me. And he asked me how I felt. And I said, I feel fine. So there are those situations where we need exactness, of course, but in this case, the farmer used wisdom. So, where to understand is about knowledge, it is about data, it is linear, it tends to focus on exactness, on how much and quantity, like a recipe or a formula. Wisdom, on the other hand, focuses on quality, on vision, on revelation, on guidance of the heart, on spontaneity. It bypasses or transcends the head or the mind. There's a story about Mahatma Gandhi and an incident in which as he was stepping on board a train one day, one of his shoes or sandals fell off out and landed on the track. And the train was moving, so there was nothing he could do. And to the amazement of those standing around, he immediately, calmly took off his other shoe or sandal and threw it out as far as he could to land by the other one. And when asked why he did that, of course, he replied, well, the poor man who finds the shoe lying on the track will now have a pair. And so it's the immediacy of a heart-connected response. It's the things that heroes act spontaneously in bravery. They said, well, I didn't even think about it. I just acted. I just did what I did. The heroic kind of feats and things that happen and are reported. They bypass the mind. They go from the heart. There's something that just from their core tells them what to do. And that's something we need to expand and broaden as we evolve. Knowledge tends to have a person relate their identity and their uniqueness to what it is that they think, or their ability to think. Whereas wisdom tends to have a person relate their own identity and uniqueness to their ability to love. There is a wonderful passage in 1 Corinthians, eye hath not seen nor ear heard, neither entered into man the things that God has prepared for them that love him. And then the next verse is, but God has revealed them unto us by his Spirit. In other words, it's not going to be revealed externally. It's going to be revealed from within. Spiritual things are spiritually discerned. And then the next verse says, for what man knows the things of a man? It's just what I've been talking about, folks. What man is able to know the things of another man? You can't. but the spirit of man. In other words, if you go to that other dimension, get out of your head, go to your heart, or the next level to spiritual understanding, you actually will begin to potentially really understand another. Maybe not everything about their past and what's causing them to be the way they are, but there is a level of understanding. So when you look at what the definition in the Revealing Word, which is a book that Unity has out, it says under wisdom that it's intuitive knowing, spiritual intuition, the voice of God within as the source of our understanding. And it continues and says, wisdom includes judgment, the appropriate judgment, discernment, intuition, and all the departments of the mind that come under the head of knowing. It's a spiritual knowing. And in the next sentence it says, the knowing capacity transcends intellectual knowledge. So there's a knowing deep within. You know, a person applies for a job in 3 places. 2 of them offer to hire him. Intellectually, the one looks better than the other. It has more income, more salary, more perks, more benefits. But the other one, at a deep level of knowing, says, you know, the other one, I'm guided to take the other one, even though it seems, you know, the other one would be better. So he takes the one that's less benefits and pay. 1 year later, that company is on a downturn. There's cutbacks and layoffs. And the one that he has chosen and followed that inner intuition is prospering, and they've even given him a promotion. That's the kind of thing. And I know that people have had that experience. I've talked to people who've had exactly that kind of experience, and it's a very powerful thing. Some things are a seeming mystery. You know, there are people that in our lives, you know, suddenly pull away. You know, they change. They maybe turn cold or become aloof or even oppositional. It can be a friend. It can be a sibling, a child, a parent, you know, coworker. Things seemed fine. All of a sudden, they weren't. But we have to transcend the need to go crazy trying to figure out why, and just come from understanding, come from our heart, continue to love, send them thoughts and prayers of love, whatever. Remain warm, kind, non-judgmental. All judgment is of the head. So let go of the need to understand, get out of your head and into your heart and have understanding, and then go even deeper into spiritual understanding and the wisdom that allows the revelations of the divine to pour through you to make your life happy, rich, prosperous, and joyous. God bless you all.
Thank you for joining us for today's message. We invite you to be with us again next Sunday. Unity is inclusive, welcoming people of all walks of life in dignity and love. We believe that love, strength, and goodness dwells within you. May we all live in unity with God, humanity, and all of God's creation. And remember, as Reverend Caesar says, life is meant to be good.
When you visit Unity of Houston, you'll find a spiritual community, a church where you can connect and learn and grow with a progressive approach to Christianity. At Unity, we welcome you no matter what your beliefs. You'll find a teaching, loving, inspiring experience as we help each other be all we're created to be. Check us out. We'd love to have you. Find us online at unityhouston.org, and remember, life is meant to be good.